Thanks, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. Jen, will you do roll call, please?
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Len Titi, Jennifer Finley, here, Jim Molitor,
Here.
Carol Langford, Terry Pitts, Bing Matt,
Here.
Ellie Bundy, Martin Charlo. He said he would be.
Present.
He said he would be. Mike Dolson. He's at the fifth field trip. James Still Senior.
Thank you, Jen. We'll start our day off with a prayer. Jimmy, would you lead us in a prayer this morning?
Father, we're calling you today to join us, to guide us in what we do for our people today. We ask you to just watch over us, watch over the full council, ask you to look at the people that have lost loved ones here recently and just to comfort them if you can. And we ask you just watch over all our tribal membership, people that are traveling, people that are doing business for us. Just ask us in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Jimmy. All right, let's start off with the minutes from the 11th. Council minutes from October 11th for your consideration.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Bing.
Yeah, I believe Darla Borovold, her last name is Brovold.
Thank you, Bing. Jimmy?
I have something in executive.
Okay. Any other changes or corrections to the minutes for the 11th? Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 8, my first statement, Terry gets concerned when people talk about building new buildings. That really doesn't, I didn't make that clear, probably just delete that part and the rest of it was about the railroad.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Martin to approve the October 11th minutes with corrections. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Martin's got his hand up, I can tell. Thanks, Lynn. Unanimous? Okay, we have our agenda today. We have one walk-in, Dave, for Hunter Assist. And Jimmy has one executive item. Any other additions? Jen?
And Patricia will be in, Patty will be in to give an update on a tribal member issue.
Okay,
Hers will be an executive as well.
okay. Any other additions to the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve today's agenda with additions. Motion by Jennifer. Second by Jimmy. All those in favor of the agenda today, show of hands. All right, we have an agenda. Let's start out with Dave. Good morning, Dave. Dave Wall, AKA Tall Wall. Yeah. I think, Dave, you've gotten assistance before for hunting on the res. So this is a similar request, just same thing as Miss Darla last week. So Dave is requesting assistance with his descendant son to help him hunt on the reservation here. Go ahead, Dave.
Son or grandson, either one. And I was wondering if I could have the hunt period for 1 month because they're busy and they both work and I'm just a road hunter, so I don't get around that good. And another issue would be maybe if I could start the hunt when I feel like it's ready, maybe a little colder weather, maybe say a couple weeks away. So.
Any council discussion? Motion by Alan to approve a 1 month time period for Dave to have Hunter assist with his son or grandson to start when the weather is appropriate. Jen, second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Good luck,
All right,
Dave.
thank you.
You bet. Good hunting. Jen?
Can we go into executive for the next walk-in information?
Absolutely. Okay. We'll move into executive session. Sorry, Juan, I have to step out for a minute. Okay, we'll bring you back in. We'll probably just stay in executive session the rest of the morning and we'll have you in executive too. Okay. But you'll have to leave though for now. Okay, Patty, a hot seat.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council. So this morning I was inquiring about tribal member Darlene Finley. So if you can give us an update on that.
Absolutely. So, after the council meeting on Tuesday, I followed up with Darlene Finley, and then also with SCAHA. As you know, there was an injunction from the court for her to be evacuated from her property on Tuesday. She was not ready to leave. She hadn't packed anything. We understand the children were ill. So I had a nurse go over and look at the children. They did COVID tests. They came back negative, but they were sick. And I was able to get SCAHA to give her 2 more days to vacate her property. The property is not in her name, it's in her daughter's name, so her name is not even on the lease. Her daughter has been in Washington for the past year, and she's been taking care of the children. She has until 3 o'clock today to vacate the property. So we've been working with DHRD to try to find alternate housing for her. They do have a program where they can assist with hotels, and we're trying to move her and the children to Signs. She says she has no place to go. That's where we're at.
In those situations, what are our options with the kids?
That's the really tough part. She has had 2 CPS referrals, so CPS has a good relationship with her. When they did the investigation on those referrals, they were not able to qualify or to find any findings based on what those requests came in. DHRD and certainly social services will keep in good touch with her. They're trying to help her find housing. The children are not in school. They're all very young. I think they are 1.5 years, 3 and 4 maybe. So they are not school age. So if they move to the hotel in Symes for a period of time, they wouldn't be displaced and going to a new school. They are small children.
Those are really tough situations.
It is
And,
tough.
you know, when we are having to address these situations, I think we just get to a point now we have to worry about the kids rather than the adults at this point in time, especially when we're getting into the winter months. It just, I just commend you guys for the work that you do for them, and hopefully she can get something figured out.
Yeah, we also have DHRD working with her to get at least temporary custody of the kids. There's nothing on record that gives her custody of the children. And it does look like mom's not coming back from Washington for any time soon.
Yeah. Okay. Caroline, come.
Wait, Carol.
Here I go. This is just the beginning. And it's been the beginning ever since I've sat here, and it seems like, and I know it's through court, and there's 40 houses on the rehab list, 40 homes. But that wouldn't help Darlene's situation anyway, unless we ask housing to set aside 4 or 5 homes for these kind of situations. But you think they would think of that? No, they don't. It's like they can't think outside of those little rules that they have in front of them. And I'm not trying to be critical, but come on. Here we are. We've got Mission Valley Power, you know, just squeezing every dime out of DHRD when they have a late power bill. Same way with housing. You look at DHRD's top 2 billings, and it's those 2 tribal departments. And we're trying to help people over here, people with no incomes. And I could just go on. And I just don't understand. And I think it's time we look at housing as being a tribal department. because their rules are so, they're ingrained, and Ellie's on the board. I probably should let Ellie talk. But I've sat on that board 12 years, and then prior to that, you know, and it's just, you get so ingrained as a board into the executive director, you don't look and don't look around you, but me sitting here seeing all the other things that are going on with our people, I understand. And until we can change those mindsets, and I know Jody's hands are tied because it's through court. She couldn't even give the extension, but she did. And that's, I don't know if that's even allowed,
Yeah.
but it happened. And so I don't know what we do. I'm not saying we get rid of either person. I'm just saying, come on, you can work with people and make it a little bit simpler, but that doesn't solve this. But I think, I don't know if you were saying this, Lynn, but since Darlene's not a part of the situation, I think they should be allowed to stay in their house. And maybe we need to go back through court and ask the judge to reconsider allowing that to happen. Because if you put those kids in a hotel's not a place for kids, especially that age. You might as well remove them and put them in a non-member home in Missoula, because it's just not a place for kids. And so whatever we can do. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Carol. Any other comments?
I would agree. I think that makes it a really tough situation. I will say that SCAHA was following their rules to the T, right? So they have their own policies. And the eviction process is a lengthy process. It doesn't happen quickly. The notification had gone out to the home. Darlene knew, but panicked at the last minute and didn't follow up. There were some processes that she had gone through to turn in the recertification documents that had gone to her daughter in Washington. Daughter didn't fill them out. She filled them out. SCAHA says she forged her daughter's name. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I don't know. She was trying to keep a house for herself and the grandchildren. So we get that. But the only one, according to SCAHA policies and procedures, that could put her name on the lease would have been her daughter. It seems to me it might be an opportunity to review SCAHA policies and to see if there are some of those options available for SCAHA to implement to keep people like this situation in the home. It's still a home for the kids, no matter what the parent that's there that's taking care of them or grandparent, but in the SCAHA policies, this is the next step. So I asked, was she behind in rent? Was she behind in any payments to SCAHA? I believe there was one, and I forget what it was for. It's like $78. So Darlene has been keeping up with payments to SCAHA as they were designed. So she wasn't evicted because their bills weren't paid. It was evicted because the lease is not in her name.
And so the policy doesn't allow for that transfer of occupants lease?
Not as I understand. I
What's
haven't
it?
looked at their policies, but what I'm hearing from Jody is it does not.
So
Unless.
that's what needs to be fixed.
Yep, I believe so.
What's their process for their policy changes? Do we know, Carol?
Just goes from the staff to the board, and the board adopts any changes that come forward. But it also questions them, you know, and like I said, if Ellie's on, she's on the board. But I can say one thing, housing does have a lengthy process.
Mhm.
And if people will just adhere to the rules, but what's her name did not, well, I don't mean to call her what's her name, but she didn't get any of the documentation that I know of to fill out. But she did, she forged the one document, and here we are today. But the daughter's got a serious problem and she's not coming home. It's like she don't care. And
So now it's in DHRD's hands and they'll support every way that they can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We can, who's the board chair? Frank or Jean? Frank. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know how long ago their policies were even reviewed and updated, but I think those are good questions.
Mr. Chair, I know that they are updated. Every year we go through them and make sure that we're keeping up with times. Since Jody's been on, we've really done that. But I think the other thing is I've talked to other tribes, you know, being at Ameren and stuff, and I've noticed more tribes are moving towards a tribal department just because of the antiquated rules that housing has. It's just
Mhm.
like so much like a BIA, you know, we stick to the rules and we have no ability to say, yeah, this is one of our families we should be helping. These are our children, you know? So I would like to have a little compassion put in there. But the staff they work hard
Mhm.
to try to get people to comply. I can vouch for that for sure.
Go ahead, Len.
Yeah, I think Carol brings up a good point in regards to reviewing those policies. I think on all of our departments, we need to put council discretionary clauses in there that allows us to make those decisions, and especially in these types of situations. You know, because right now our hands are tied, and until we can have something like that in there that would give us the authority to make a decision based on an emergency situation. So, just a thought.
Yeah, well, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. If there's a family there and there are adults that are living there, and the lease happens to be in one of them's name, and something happens to that person, well, then why can't it be the lease transferred to another responsible adult in the household? That's common sense.
Yeah.
That's practical operations. And if their policy doesn't say that, then it needs to be amended to say that.
Because actually what's gonna happen is she's gonna come back and apply. She's gonna go on the bottom of the list and have to figure it out in the meantime. And she's taking care of 3 grandkids.
Well, she's an occupant. I mean,
Yeah.
there's, you know, possession of the house. I mean, living in the house gives you some basic fundamental human rights that you're there, you know? I don't know. Good. Yeah, go ahead, Carol, sorry.
I was thinking what Len had suggested, a council, you know, interference. I know you didn't say interference, but I think allow the executive crew to look at it, not the governing body, but allow that step to have you guys have a review of that policy or the next steps, you know, when somebody gets evicted and it's in kind of like this situation, and not bring it to the council, but to you guys. You can figure it out. I mean, you're dealing with all this other stuff, you know.
Well, that's one of the great things is if you have, people are dealing with it all the time, they know what needs to be fixed. They know the tweaks, and being responsible, in, government, we need to have an adaptive nature. We'd be able to absolutely adapt with current situations and fix it. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I would imagine she was probably really overwhelmed. Because I have, you know, when my kids were that little like that, I have 3 kids, it was really overwhelming. And I would imagine that was probably just some details, paperwork stuff that was really big for her at the time, I would imagine. And now going forward, it's moving in 2 days with 3 little kids.
Sick kids.
I can't even imagine that how you even do that. And so I don't know so it sounds like she doesn't have any help to help her do the things that she needs to do. So I don't know. Is there someone at DHRD who can help people like go through paperwork if they need help filling things out? Because there's also the Community Action Partnership Network, and they have money to help people who are homeless to pay their rent and get them into an apartment. It's separate from Section 9, and they're located in the same building as Fiesta and Jalisco and Polson. So they help a lot of tribal people who burn their bridges with housing. There's a whole separate entity. So they do have resources to help people who are homeless. So, but I would imagine it's a lot of paperwork. So moving in 2 days with 3 little kids, that's probably the last thing on her mind. But, you know, if there's someone who can help her walk her through the paperwork of other options as well to get her into someplace quickly.
Yeah, DHRD assists with all kinds of paperwork, but we'll make sure that they followed up with that organization also.
So Patty, can you call Frank and just ask him is there an emergency board meeting they can have to modify their policy? I'll take care of this particular situation. I mean, you know, as a landlord, when I have a tenant that keeps up on their bills, that's worth a lot rather than change to some unknown person. And if the responsible party there has been the one doing the bill paying, this should be transferred to, then yeah, I mean, it just doesn't even make sense to me. But
Mr. Chair,
go ahead, Martin. Go ahead, Martin.
has she applied for TLC? Was she ever trying to add herself to the household? I understand, you know, the situation now, but you know, we're coming in late trying to overturn a court decision, which I feel like is, you know, is problematic from our position. You know, I don't think we should get into the courts. I don't understand why she didn't come to us sooner when we could have easily had her added to the household. That's how you change over the head of household is if a person is on the household, they can become head of household. And it sounds like she was never on, you know, officially on the household. So I worked at housing. I helped with, you know, these type of things, and I get it. Like, yeah, housing's the bad guy here, but you know, we also have rules for a reason. And I you know, I feel for these kids, but you know, people need to come to us sooner if they need help, not after a court decision has been issued. So, you know, I think TLC would be, you know, if we're really going to help her, you know, let's see if TLC is an option and see if she refuses that, then obviously it's not that big of a concern for her because, you know, TLC is there for a reason. And I really don't like interfering with courts. I really don't like doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, so I can respond to that comment. SCAHA advocate has been talking to her with Darlene for quite a while. Recommended that she applied for TLC and she dismissed it. She did not want to apply for TLC. Essentially said she didn't want to live there. We know that there's a waiting list for TLC. There's a waiting list for everything. It's not as long as the other housing units for SCAHA. According to Jody, if people are on the list for TLC, they normally get in within 3 to 4 months, where the other lists are 12 to 18 months wait. But she was not interested in TLC. When DHRD went and met with her on Tuesday, she said the same thing. They brought the application to help her fill it out and she did not want to. And according to Jody, to get her on the lease, her daughter would have had to sign something to add her to the lease and never did.
And she never responded or just said no?
I don't know what kind of relationship she has with her or.
Yep.
Yeah, she may have said, I'll do it and just never did. I'm not exactly sure. So Darlene did the paperwork herself and Skaha would not accept it.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that information. Patty, I have one more issue here I want to bring to your attention.
Can I say one more
Yeah.
thing about that particular case? I will also say that when I talked with Jody on Tuesday, her comments to me were, Darlene was a problematic tenant. There was behavior going on that house, that they don't want in their community. So I think when it moved through the eviction process, that was probably part of the thought was to get her out. There had been some tribal police action there, from Darlene accosting other neighbors, and we're on video, and so there were other things happening, which to me causes a concern for the children. And to be perfectly honest, I've asked DHRD to keep very tight reins on that family.
Okay, thank you, Patty. It's just one of those situations where right now we just need to focus on the children, focus on what's going to happen with the children. So, thank you. Well, since I still have you in executive session, there's one other issue I just need to bring to your attention.
Okay.
I was just informed here recently that tribal elder Jeannie Oldhorn, I think Jeannie's in her mid-80s, and she was the owner of her home has sold the property, and the new owner is going to be giving her a time frame to vacate. Jeannie has absolutely nowhere to go. She's on very limited income. She lost her husband here a few years back. She's taking care of her grandkids. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention because that will probably become an issue here shortly. And I'm not really sure what we can do at this point in time, but just knowing that she's an elder and she's got very limited resources, she'll be approaching us again. So
Do you have her contact info you could send me?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Patty.
Thanks, Len, for bringing that up and sharing it with Patty. Is that all we have for Patty? Okay,
I wasn't expecting to see you.
since
today.
you're here.
Since you're here. I just had so Kathy Ross who is a tribal elder, has a sister who is intermittently homeless. And Kathy got permission to put a trailer at Salish Kootenai Housing Authority's trailer, like mobile home site. But Skaha said that she has to do some repairs. So I don't know how, Kathy's still working, but she's in her 70s and she's been doing the repairs herself for her sister's trailer so they can move it. So it's up to code or whatever to move in there. And I thought, oh my God, is there any potential help that she could get to fix this trailer up? Cause her sister, I don't know what her sister's issues are exactly, but she's homeless off and on, and she's also raising her grandkids, and her sister's also a tribal elder. And so Kathy's working and taking care of other grandkids, and she's fixing up this trailer. And if there's any help that you can give Kathy Ross, or to see what she needs to fix up the trailer for her sister.
And this is Kathy Rouse that works at Tribal Health?
Yeah,
Okay.
so you know how
I'll-
to get a hold of her?
I'll
Okay.
follow up with her and see what the repairs are and see how we might be able to help.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks for coming in, Patty.
Wish I had better news.
Jimmy, you want to be an executive? Okay, we'll stay in executive.
Thank you, Chairman and Council. You know, before I get to my point, I really want to say I really sympathize with these people that are in these situations. You know, I always think back in the day when this reservation was given to our people to live on, to live their lives. You know, now we got so many rules and regulations, it's hard to do that. But I just wanted to in my head. Anyway, I've been asked to present the rodeo here that we have in Polson as taking a rodeo of the year award. Now they want to know if we can help or if we're to get it. They have to have a donation of $2,500 to put into the INFR in order to present our flag in all of the grand entries, and if one of our participants happen to win a place to carry our flag in that area, that's $2,500 is half price because we're part of it now. But in order to do that, they need to have the donation of $2,500 plus the flag, and it's at the last minute. This thing is starting Tuesday, so I just bringing up the request if we can assist, or if should I go and ask gaming to do it. Just asking council.
Well, I think we got a flag.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think we got a flag.
Good. Carol?
Yeah, I think we should just ask them if they could go ahead and pay the fee and we have the flag and represent the 75. How many kids did you say were involved in this? Jimmy?
You know,
I thought you had a figure, how many kids were
how
involved.
many participants?
Yeah,
I don't know the exact number, but I know there's a few. Pete White, Ron Trahan's granddaughter. There's some others that are down there, and you know, I think there's 75 nations that
oh,
fly their
75
flag.
nations.
I'm sorry, I got it wrong. I couldn't hear you, but there's 75 nations that flag, you know, run their flag to their grand entry, and I think we should participate in that. What's that?
Well, 8 kids coming in.
Okay.
I would like to see gaming handle it. I don't know how you can't tell them what to do, but ask the chairman of the board, which is Pete White,
Yeah.
and his kids down there, so.
Yeah, I think chairman of the board, but it's kind of a quick thing because it starts Tuesday. And that's a request to have it there this next week, and so I don't know where to go, but you
Yeah.
know,
Jen?
I hate to be a Scrooge, but I feel like it's money that doesn't directly benefit a person. And that's a lot of money. And, you know, people get turned down all the times for donation requests. And I think that, you know, some people really work really hard and raise a lot of money for themselves. I think that's great. But I think this request, since for me, it doesn't directly benefit a person doing something, I don't think I would support it. Seems like it's a lot of money to have your flag flown for a few people, less than 10 people.
Terry, then Len?
Does gaming, how is their position? Do they have some funding in reserves? And I would think my opinion is, at least we could ask them if they had some funding in the reserves that they could see. Gaming's going down, aren't they? Or some of the reps.
Well, yeah, that's where Jimmy's going. I know they got that much from me this year. No.
yeah, I'm in there with you.
Len and then Carol.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. Yeah, I think I have to agree with Jennifer also. Not only that, gaming is doing substantially well these past 3 years, and they have, I know last year's report, they have over $20 million in reserves. So I don't think, doing $2,500 donation is going to impact them. So I would just rather have gaming, do the donation.
Well, it's all related to promotional events for SNK Gaming anyway, so Carol? Okay. Jimmy, I think you're gonna have to go talk to Pete.
Okay.
But we should have a flag. Do we have a flag? Okay. You can take a flag with you.
Standard size flag.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
We're gonna leave the building without the flag on Monday. Or today.
Yeah.
Anything else for that was it, Jimmy?
That was it.
Okay, well, go ahead, Bing.
Yeah, I just follow up with that, Mr. Chair, with that. I think Brian should be addressed, not Pete, because Pete's the president of the board, so I think Brian should be the one be confronted with this issue. He's the one that handles all the money and everything else, so I think he's one that should be asked, because Pete's going to be a participant too, in this. So, he ought to be, I think Brian should be the one to be.
Sounds good, Bing. I'll contact him today.
Okay, we're gonna stay in executive. We'll have Juan come in. We're staying executive because part of his presentation is not for public information at this time. It's proprietary. He's gonna transfer that to us. So Juan wanted on today because he's got a new job and he's moving. So he's moving to the Bay Area, California. He worked on many projects here. So Juan, you're up. Good morning.
Morning, Juan.
I just telling him that you're moving, got a new job and. Okay. Okay.
Good morning, Chair McDonald and honorable and distinguished tribal leaders. It's been a pleasure and a absolute experience of learning meeting you, as well as having these discussions that are of common things that we share that are important to us, such as the environment and prosperity. To give you a short summary of where I'm off to as far as projects, I had been selected to join the justice system in the county of Alameda, where I will be then assisting them doing some of the planning and development of their correctional systems, including the courts, as well as the holding facilities. And so my intentions are to make this a more humane way of processing people that have come before the law, without minimizing the damage that that occurs when people get processed through the legal system as it is today. And so that's what I will be doing up in San Francisco. But I wanted this opportunity to shake your hands and thank you for the learning that has occurred on my part in interacting with you and in chatting about these topics of importance with you. So with that, I'd like to move into the presentation, which it's primarily a project that deals with housing, affordable housing, but not just simply building a box, but just building something that is productive, that encourages well-being and prosperity, while keeping in mind and being mindful that we just cannot simply use up the land and go into a sprawl mode and consume those resources. So with that, I'll start my presentation by saying, so if I were to describe to you a city or a town that specifically would have cars flying overhead, mobile streets moving, sensors that tell you on your phone where to go shopping, what retail is occurring, what are good places to shop, I think I would generally be describing to you something that would be called the Jetsons, a 1970s cartoon that described the future in a very positive way. But to the core of the matter is, this does not address the social condition, and neither does it address the maintenance of traditions and culture. And what I mean by that is basically when I say the human condition is mental health, that those issues that occur in cities and within our communities, physical health, and as well as prosperity, which is a key component, because without that you trigger other issues, the former, which I've mentioned. I also doesn't address then the issue of traditions and culture, which in our culture, and I'll include myself in this, I know that the stewardship of earth, water, air, and including the animals that make their homes within these environments, or the natural environment, their home. That preservation of that is generally not considered in Western planning, engineering, government. We just give them an infrastructure and we hope for the best. Sometimes we add programs that support those elements, but generally we don't plan or build and support our communities in that way. So with that said, I'd like to walk you through this actual component that will describe the project, and I'll go through it briefly. So the project is basically focusing on a 300 unit development that'll comprise a community center, student housing, additional tribal office facilities, as well as housing for teachers and elderly care. So in other words, as opposed to separating those elements individually, we want those elements to be together, because that constitutes a healthy community accessing specific services, which I'll outline in the following items in this presentation. The 300 units will service 1,050 individuals in the form of 300 units or dwellings. we would encourage then within this project, a mixed-use configuration, which would be generally, we have as a standard here, 3 floors, 4 floors maximum. Historically, this is what we had in this region. But on the ground floor around it, we would have small shops, retail, that would then could be through microloans, tribal businesses that are embedded within this development, or the so-called mixed use. We would also include in this project an emphasis on high mobility, such as bicycle lanes, electric cars, electric buses, and walking specifically. So we then encourage health. And as we go to the second line, you'll see another emphasis, which is this is the actual crown jewel of the project. Through the community center, we would have integrated child care, as well as after-school tutoring and learning. So kids don't go home and just start watching TV, but they have a place to go have homework, to be tutored. And we would have an element of mental health behavior assessment, meaning children that are tutored, that are involved in childcare are assessed early, so we could find out who are these individuals have trauma, learning disabilities, and other issues that we could catch early. Going to the last line, we would see then a great emphasis on green zones. This is supported by the UN. The current thinking that the UN is transmitting to us planners is you must have green zones embedded within this housing at a higher level that encourages less depression, more mental health. This is what they're saying. This is supported by the University of Chicago, their recent study on this, and Miami, the city of Miami, as well as New York. They're investing heavily on this type of configuration. In fact, New York is spending $800 million on building more parks and densifying with more trees and more shrubs their neighborhoods to encourage mental health. So if we were to go then to the other following page, which would be this page, we would then see that there are properties available in Pablo that are partially owned by tribal or available currently now to be purchased, where we could build this project. Through its center line, if I may show here, that is a rail spur that is inactive currently. But the Big Sky Rail Authority and other communities, including counties, 19 of which are now working on activating the actual passenger and rail activities in Montana. Martin Shallow is on that committee, and so am I, and we are working towards those ends. So we reduce less use of cars, more use of mass transit, and connecting some of the key cities such as Missoula and potentially someday Helena. We would have access to that here once that would be activated. And so when we then go to the next page, which is this, when we speak on the housing types, we would refer to them to be high density, which is we want to densify, so we do not sprawl and use up land that does not need to be used at this time. We concentrate the population. That would mean that we would be building 1 bedrooms within this complex of around 800 square feet, 2 bedrooms at 1,000, 3 bedrooms at 1,200 square feet. And when we say high density, the question would come up, well, how would these buildings look like? What form would they take? Well, they could be modular, which are many examples both here in Montana and in Iowa, that we could purchase those modules and build those types of facilities. I will show you then what these buildings would look like, and let me just pass this board. Well, those could be scaled up and down. They could be 2 floors, they could be 3 floors, in keeping with the historical values of what is acceptable here. And they could be skinned in anything that you want, from something Western to something modern. But the importance of that is that you'll see is that the bottom floor has retail capabilities that could be another opportunity for tribal to promote tribal businesses through microloans that are exclusively tribal businesses. So people come down from their apartments or their condos and they purchase tribal products. And therefore those dollars stay within the tribal economy longer and become more productive. You'll also notice that those are shorter blocks as opposed to our standard long blocks that we have currently today, thereby encouraging individuals to walk around the block because they're shorter in nature. If we move to then this other slide, we see some examples of what types of densification of vegetation, trees, and shrubs, which are essential to mental health. Other than having programs, trees, or what we call green infrastructure, is a critical part of us designing cities, designing communities. They need to be at higher density. In fact, the code for Miami, Florida was changed on a paper that I wrote called High Performance Trees and Shrubs, which advocated the greater use of trees to reduce depression and respiratory diseases and other issues. This could be deployed within this project. If you were to move to the types of housing, which would be this, these are just examples of prefab, volumetric examples that would take 4 months to build as opposed to 8, thereby saving times and uncertainty in lack of wood materials or other products that we've experienced last year and years before, where those products were not available and they delayed construction and ups the cost of construction. Generally, these things call a 2-bedroom, 2 baths, goes for $209,000. Pre-assembled, shipped to the site of the highest quality. I say that because I and the city of Polson specifically went to those sites and visit with those manufacturers. If we were to minimize the amount of time that I'm taking here, move to the daycare, a part of the presentation, you will see, which is this, a building within this community that would then have a ability for childcare, after school services, thank you, such as tutoring and assisting, helping children with doing their homework, as well as mental health, and a community center where we could have weddings, we could have community conversations, community gatherings. But we would have embedded with this a component of assessment of mental health and the ability to dispense mental health from a centralized place. I've given you additional examples of daycare that could occur, but let me bring you to the other facilities which might be of interest to you, which is this. These are examples of a square, which floor plate that could be used for elderly care, additional tribal office spaces, and other activities. They would have courtyards in the summer that one could have trees and small parks to have sunlight. And in the winter, on the following page, you will see that they would have large windows so people in these elderly care type of scenarios can then take sun in the winter. And then lastly, I'll bring you to the actual project development uses, which is what I have here in a larger version for your questions and questions, and so you could peruse. And generally, it would be divided into a retail commercial zones adjacent to Highway 93. A residential zone that would be comprised of both an apartment complex and actual housing in the form of condos, followed with, in the blue areas that you would see there, a small light industrial component. The chair, Tom McDonald, and I have had opportunity to speak with individuals that would like to have you as landlords in the areas of meat packing, or meat or bison meats production as a product based out of these facilities that would be interested. Also, entities such as Siemens and Light Assembly would be interested in having these discussions with you and are looking into this as possibilities. So we have individuals and companies of large caliber that would like to be a part of this, that would like to have you as a landlord, and use local individuals to supply their workforce. You will see at the far end of this depiction, future light rail or future light industry, which could be other properties that may be available, where you could expand the concept as to acquire more businesses, to provide both housing and across the street, a place that you would go to work. With that, I am concluded with my presentation, and if there's any questions, because I have provided you with the actual assessment of the breakdown of the housing, their costs if you were to do this project as far as what you would earn, and the cost to build up the project. I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Questions for council? I will let you know that the parcel identified in red is, we're currently acquiring that parcel. Yeah.
So you are in process?
Oh, yeah.
Right
We're
now?
actually take final action on it today.
Right. You're in the process of moving that, and the idea is to present these alternative ideas that if you do secure these parcels, you have alternatives to commercialize these areas in a mindful way. Individuals want to be here and open up industry. There's an opportunity to provide housing here. And this is a rudimentary, just conceptual phase of what can be done to really maximize the benefit to tribal members and the community at large.
Carol, did you have something?
Yeah, on the 200 units equal residential annual rent is 2 million. What does that break down to individual yearly?
We would assume that this would be in a range of 1,000 to 1,350 rent. But we also have to consider that we want a grouping of different social classes. We want to have our affordable, because we need to support the people that are struggling. We want to have our workmen's housing, and we want to have potentially some market rate. But all of it in support of providing a local workforce to hold that workforce to build our future projects. They would be ranging, Carol, in the range of 1,000 to 1,350, based on the configuration that your land and other entities would say, this is the mix of percentage that we want of each. But this is facilitated towards, we have to build it economical so we could have the compensation of affordable. If it's built expensive, we won't be able to have something that's economical or affordable rents.
I think, go ahead, Terry. Just one footnote, when the commissioners were here, we were talking about light rail. David Strohmeyer and Martin, and Tony made the comment about if we reactivated the line up to Pablo, this would be a great place for forestry to be able to, load up logs and ship them out of here in a different way, a different fashion. So he was talking about this particular site. Tony was. Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to envision the management, the accountability, the maintenance, upkeep. If you have eviction issues, you know, how does that structure look like?
There are beautiful models existing today. Germany runs its railroads and its housing departments in this fashion. They have a box, and within that box sits government as a partner and sits a developer or a private investor within that box. That produces then accountability from the developer. The developer makes its money, but is within a partnership. And so it has to be closely monitored. In this case, I would say the management of that should be tribal. So that management is critical and it is observing these moves from the developer or any other partner within that relationship. And this is how Germany does housing, and this is how they do their transportation.
Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Juan. I appreciate your presentation, Juan, but cluster housing is problematic. We have an example of that in the Project 30s in Pablo. It's low-income housing. It's one of the highest crime areas on the reservation. We just said that we didn't want an 80 unit, houses in our league. I would be strongly opposed to doing 300 units. It's not going to be serving tribal people. It'll serve non-members. I just couldn't. I just don't see this working, to be honest with you. So that's some blunt honesty this morning. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Martin. I really understand the concern, and you're absolutely right. You know, Martin, it was the planners at the turn of the century that developed, with good intention in part, ghettos. We said to their communities, let's cluster everybody that has a disparity in one place, because it's going to help us better service them. It's one stop, and it's cheaper for us to be able to service them. And we wound up creating ghettos in Chicago, New York, and LA, and a whole bunch of other places. But what I'm saying, Martin, is do not cluster everybody that needs affordable or everybody that is in dire straits. Cluster small numbers in small buildings, not one large building, different social groups, middle class and any other classes within that group, so people could uplift each other versus just putting in a group of people or individuals with disparity when you're going to magnify the problem. The other issue behind that would be, do we want to conserve our lands, or do we want to just keep building out in our lands as population pressure to develop and consume and create sprawl? Land is important and it needs to be preserved.
Thank you, Juan. Any other questions for Juan? All right.
Well, with that said, thank you so much for this opportunity. I leave with you all the research data, including the EPA assessments of the sites, environmental assessments, and some research that I've done, including in these packets. This could be scaled up or down. It could be used in smaller portions in different other developments. I've included the elements that must be included, which is mental health. And this is a gift from me to you for all that I've learned from all of you in my conversations that I've had with you. I am available at any time if you wish to develop this, or if you have any additional questions of me. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Juan, and it's been a privilege to work with you. But especially when you're at the city planner's position in Polson. I mean, your breath of fresh air there. I gotta say, it was wonderful. Go ahead, Jennifer.
He also delivered some fruit for you guys in the back.
So there's a little bit something to eat.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you
Juan.
for your time.
And I want to wish you very good luck and I hope that I can come down and see you. That's one of my favorite areas. we're
Well,
going to.
you have my, I'll clear my calendar when you're on your way. Thank you very much.
Well, I'll know I'll
Chair.
see you when you come back up this way, so.
I will. Thank you very much, Chair and honorable tribal leaders. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being here for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan.
Was you guys gonna take a quick break before?
Yeah, we'll
the
take a
next-
quick break before, who's up next? James Lozo.
Yep, they're all sitting and waiting, and Lynn's in the waiting room, so.
Okay.
You guys take a quick break. I'll start
Okay,
getting them ready.
thank you. Thank you, Juan.
Thank you so much. I learned so
About that. Your response to Mark's question is absolutely Okay, well, I think we'll come back into session after our break. Forestry, come on up. Squicks.
Here for moral support. James can.
It's always good to bring back up.
Yeah. Okay, good morning. So what we have today is a bid acceptance for a planting contract of Moss Ranch in Boulder is what we advertised for. And just looking through, Tony did mention that the acres were off a little bit.
You can't scroll down.
Oh, okay, so it was at 381, I believe is what you guys are seeing. Yeah, so then we changed it to 474 because we ended up picking up acres within the last 2 months that we were up there reconning and looking for planting. So the bid went out, and then it's at 474 acres, which it only bumped it up to 2,087 seedlings total. So it's not much of a change. So on the 6th, we had a bid opening for these two areas. And we had 2 bids. One was from Glacier Cone Company, like local, and Escalante Reforestation. They're out of Oregon. They're a big contract crew that does reforestation stuff. So then to add on top of that, we are looking to also go over our capital equipment expenditure too. So.
Did you send the resolution? Acceptance bid?
No. Yeah. No.
So just a question on your planning per acre, is that within the ballpark range of what you've historically been doing? Because when I look at this, and I was the very first contract tree planter for the tribe, and this has gone up quite a bit.
Yeah. Oh, it has. Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen, what is the bid rate, sir?
$1.25.
$1.25. In the past few years, they've been just over $1. So going up a few, 15 cents or so, with this gas prices, I guess you've got to kind of entertain that. But we have seen pricing going up in everything we do. Even with our own in-house stuff, cost is going up. Equipment wise, planting wise, thinning wise. It's just with this economic time right now, everything's going up.
So you're asking, so it's like a 15 cents, it's 10 cents. The last bid we had was $1.15, and that was for some pretty rugged stuff too. So it's right there in the ballpark. And as time goes, this will probably be the baseline for the next 2 or 3 years, $1.25, $1.30. So.
We do keep in contact with surrounding Forest Service people and looking at their bids. We are still lower than what they're getting to. So they're in that $1.35 to mid $1.50 range. So
Who is it that's getting their bids?
other local contractors from around there and some out of region. The farther west you go, like I've talked with Coeur d'Alene tribe, Nez Perce tribe, Yakima for sure, they're getting quite a bit lower. They got a lot more of a workforce developed over there for this type of stuff, and but the farther west or the east we're getting a little higher. It's kind of interesting. We do have an Oregon outfit bidding on us though. It looks like they're trying to reach more out eastward. Interesting.
Could be some of the workers that Glacier Cone Company hires that are spreading the word, right?
That might be the other thing too.
It's money. He struggles to get the planters, and so he's brought in out-of-state workers to help him.
They got like 7 months. They have a 7-month work release.
Any questions for the accepting the low bid? You need action on that one?
Yeah. And we didn't provide a resolution. We usually don't do resolutions for planting contracts. It's just more an acceptance of the contract.
Motion by Carol to accept the low bid for the boulder tree planting and Moss Ranch Fire salvage tree planting with Glacier Cone. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What are we actually planting?
Conifers, ponderosa pine and western larch into old sales and into salvage areas. So Moss, would you have Moss Ranch? Boulder. So both of those are fire salvage. So a lot, Boulder for sure, we can apply some of that bear funding to, and Moss Ranch is compact. So BIA compact money that we receive from the region.
We're trying to focus a little bit more on fire resistant species, so a little more ponderosa pine. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Well, go ahead, Glenn, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. So how do our thinning operations work now? Are we still doing contract thinning, or are we hiring people to do that?
We have a hybrid of it. We hire our own internal thinning group that's employed by forestry. Where they show up to work every day. We provide a truck, we provide their saws. They go out there and work an hourly wage and accomplish acres that way. We also still do contracts, TEA contracts with tribal members that don't want to work a full-time job, but want to be able to do some on the side or have opportunity with another job still. So it's a hybrid attack at it, you know, and we use the in-house one, hiring those guys kind of as a builder program where we can get them started, provide their saw, show them the specs, and then some of those have ventured out on themselves to do contracts with themselves where they provide their own saw, they provide their own vehicle and resources.
Okay, all right, thanks, Tony. That's another tough endeavor, knowing you do what you got to do to try to meet that goal, that annual goal, you know, and so I appreciate the work that you guys do over there.
And we are right now in the middle of BIA reporting, and James's program has exceeded their goal for sure this year, which is exciting.
All right, good job, James. Good work.
Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, what's this that CT Camel sent out? Hopefully get a helicopter flight today to update the acres. Was that to us?
I think that was to the newsroom. If you want a flight, there's always an extension to you guys.
I definitely would like to go out and see, you know, some of the areas that we're
Okay.
working on and how big they are. Unless we see it from the air, we really don't know unless you've got the little buzzers up there taking pictures too.
Yeah, we got, our helicopter is at a region, and so we've been borrowing a medium ship out of Missoula. I'll get a hold of Ron or somebody, I think Ron's in Garso today, running heavy equipment, so I'll try to get a hold of someone up there and see if we can schedule a flight. Yeah. The other part of James's request was permission for capital equipment purchasing of $500,000 that will be tied to his 3805 account, which is his project account of his equipment. That is not the permission to buy out of the tribal capital equipment purchase account. This is that equipment account where money in goes back to the machines for upkeep, restoring and purchase of new equipment. So it's a maximum of 500,000 set there. It's a revenue account. You should say that we only expend what's in that account every year.
Usually get something from Ruthie on that, but Ruth, is there?
3805.
Good with it? Okay.
The other part of his request was in last December, I believe it was, we put in a request to the BIA for a part of the BIL funding that was coming out. We actually put in a request before it came out, developed with BIA for it. It included upgrades of facilities for the greenhouse mainly. And we were awarded, we put in a 2.2 million request, and we were awarded 800,000 this year, and was notified that it would be additional funding coming through the next 5 years. But we had to set up a budget for this year, 800,000 with them. We set up a new account with Ruth. So when that money comes in, we have a detailed budget of where that's gonna go. Some of that is gonna be capital equipment purchasing. 141,000 of that will be capital equipment purchasing. 617,000 of that will be building improvements for our greenhouse facility, including new beds, watering system, filter or air filtration system. Lots of good work, new electrical work, motherboards, cooler work. So some big upgrades that facility really needs.
Cool. Good news.
So Ruth, do we need anything else on that? Okay,
She's coming up with all her budget mods, so
Okay.
yes. Good information. Thanks for providing that. Good work.
all right. That's all we had. Thank you.
I'm not.
Good job, man.
All right, next up is Lynn Ducharme. Okay, hey Lynn, good morning, you're up.
Morning, Mr. Chair and the rest of the council. I've got a pretty brief issue today. A few months ago, I brought in a 40-acre parcel along the Jocko. We're calling it the Saddle Mountain parcel. It is a parcel that touches 3 of our existing mitigation parcels. And so it closes a gap in river that we didn't own, and so we will own it. BPA is likely going to fund this within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So I have a resolution on pages 19 and 20 today for the council to consider to approve purchase of the Saddle Mountain 40-acre parcel with BPA resident fish mitigation funding.
Any questions from council? Motion by Bing to approve the resolution authorizing the purchase of fee land as resident fish mitigation habitat referred to as Saddle Mountain. Second by Jimmy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, come on up, Ruth. Do that move again. Let me see that.
I've asked to skip to the letter of our comments on the 10-year National Plan on Native Language Revitalization. And you're probably wondering, why is Ruth doing this? The Dear Tribal Leader letter came out in August, and then I did not see that it was vetted to anybody, despite it being sent to all of you and your executive staff So I then just reached out to the culture committees and to the other tribal entities that are working with language programs currently and asked them to submit their comments, which they did. And I then prepared the comments along the lines of the questions posed in the letter. I was really thankful for the input that I did receive from the Established Kalispa program, also the SKC's language program, as well as individuals that have just kind of made comments in passing. Some of this is my own experience as well, and also imparting what the tribes have been funding in the way of their resources, because this has been an important priority of ours for a long time. The deadline for comments is, I'll see, we've got some phonetic things that didn't come through on the fonts, but we'll make certain it's printed correctly. The comments are due by noon tomorrow. So your consideration of these comments, and I have obtained confirmation and acceptance from the culture committee that they are in agreement with the comments, and also Michael Munson from Salish Kootenai College. But I must be using a font on my system that isn't translating to. I was just looking at that one. We don't have J's and R's in Salish.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, so Ruthie, I really appreciate you acknowledging the fact that we have funded our own language program at Two Eagle. They really need to know that.
Yes.
So that's a very good, very strong point there that you mentioned. And so thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
Motion by Carol to approve the letter. Second by Len. Yes, go ahead.
Ruth, I just really appreciate what you did here. I mean, you really went out of your way and gathered all this information and crafted this very well-written letter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth.
It's easy to do things that you find very important and needed.
So I was just looking through this letter, is part of it asking for more money for Two Eagle to fund their language program, or is that a separate issue?
We're just commenting to the fact that the regulations on that funding is prohibiting us from doing that. So we would ask that those be considered for change, and a great many others that apply to other federal agencies like Head Start. If we are unable to, do this revitalization without the assistance of federal resources, it'll be very slow or never to come. That's my belief.
Well, I just thank you, and I'm glad you included some language in there about the boarding schools too.
Absolutely.
So,
I think it's
Brilliant. Thank
yeah,
you.
it's part and parcel of that. I think I was kind and diplomatic when I said it's long overdue that the federal government should recognize that they had a direct role in the loss of language and culture, and that the beginning of that acknowledgement is really important. Long overdue. So if any of the comments I make you feel are a little bit too blistering, I'm open to that. I've been told a few times that I need to tone it down a little bit, so I welcome that.
Go ahead, Carol.
I think, Jennifer, you make a very good point. If Ruth wouldn't have picked this up on her own and everybody else figured, well, somebody else is doing it, then it never gets done. And we never get our opportunity to voice what we need to as a tribe. So I guess the question may be to Ruth or to your boss or to Rick, who picks this up and manages it and says, you know what, I think Ruth will be the best person to write this, or Shane Marshall will be the best person to do this. Who does that? Who's that clearinghouse person that, because I've seen a number of things come across and I thought, oh, we should be commenting on this. And I don't know, has to come in here for approval like
Mhm.
you did,
Mhm,
but it doesn't come in, so it doesn't get done on our behalf as a tribe
mhm,
on a lot of issues, so
mhm.
somebody needs to pick it up, and I think it might probably be Shane or Jordan, one
Mhm.
of them.
I'm thankful for that comment, Mrs. Langford. You're absolutely right. It does reside at the executive level. I mistakenly forwarded it to Jamie and she said she believed it was Jordan. That was the lead on, consultation. And I said, well, I see he's copied here, so I'm just gonna go forward and kept including it, because it was kind of running down the line of, we gotta hurry up and do this, so. And everyone is busy, things, we have lots of things to do. My interest in this does go to funding, primarily because of my role, so I didn't wanna lose any opportunity to, to at least impart that, so. Thank you again.
Any other discussion points? See no further discussion. All those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous.
Okay,
Yeah.
Jen,
Ruthie, thank you for doing it.
no worries. Thank you.
Goes all the way back to Larry Parker's classes in Ronan High School.
Oh, yep, and doing that. All right, our first issue on page 21. Why does that thing little pop up there? Why is my little window doing that? We do have to do an amendment to our funding year, multi-year funding agreement with Interior Indian Affairs. It goes directly to Mr. Inkashola's previous discussion about the award under bipartisan infrastructure law. So because that's a type of funding not currently awarded, we have to include it. So that's all that this amendment is doing, is seeking amendment to include that, and then they can award us the funding. I'm thankful also to hear that we're gonna possibly get more, or we'll be on track for more. So that'll be welcomed.
Any questions?
So there is a resolution to approve for that amendment.
Motion by Carol to approve the resolution to amend self-governance funding agreement. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous.
Very good, thank you. Okay, and our final issue is modification, already modifying fiscal 23. And as we had advised when you enacted 23, we said the only time you're going to modify is because we have funding to allocate, as in the case of some prior period funding that's come down through self-governance in both IHS and in Indian Affairs. And that will be also on that resolution to ask you to approve. So then is it the next page, Jen? Thanks. That's that letter on the consultation for the language plan, and then there was that. That's what I used. Okay, here we go. So looking at the changes in appropriations, and you'll start getting used to, you'll see them always coming down as whether it's a change in permanent, mandatory, discretionary. Because these changes are coming down from funding agreements, we are classifying all those as mandatory because they're by agreement. So you see all those changes in that middle column in the compacts, contracts, and grants. 82,000 is to increase the amount that we're providing to Salish Kootenai Housing Environmental Health Program for sanitation facilities. This is an increase in the awarded funding. So they get that increase. Also in tribal health programs for their increases granted in fiscal 22, and also for all of their American Rescue Plan Act funding to be allocated again to spend. So that's a great amount there of just over 19 million. In natural resources, again, amounts awarded for prior period that need to be allocated into resource programs. Forestries is the net of their $800,000 new funding, and then some decreases in their spending authority due to the fact that they had almost fully expended at the end of fiscal 22. So there's less amounts to carry forward for spending authority. Going down to the next page. Okay, and we're going to do a decrease in the
general fund of 440,000. This is an offset from funding we've been able to apply to the bison range. And so that relieves some tribal funding there, which is very welcomed and needed. Adding back to contingency that will become available later on. So the total increase, 22,679,000, or excuse me, I'm reading the wrong column, 25,604,651, and new total allocations of 213,089,194. Gotta get used to reading my own numbers. They're getting bigger.
Any questions for Ruth? Motion by Carol, approve the resolution for budget mod 1 in fiscal year 2023.
Yep, okay.
Second by Lynn. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Lem Lepsch.
And
All right, good job, Ruth.
Did Greg have anything? That was all with, okay, Greg, go ahead.
I'm ready. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, council members. So what I'm bringing forward today is a resolution request for us to draw down water compact funds that match the budget for fiscal year 2023. In resolution 22-135, you adopted a discretionary amount of $8,572,000. And this is a resolution here requesting the BTFA distribute to the tribes using water compact funds for the ongoing activities related to implementation. Again, the amount is $8,572,000. And I'm asking that you approve the resolution for them to release that wire and that it be not subject to any oversight fees. And I'm referencing the multi-year funding agreement that stipulates that was recently signed in August of last year. Our last fiscal year.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions for Greg? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution. Motion by Len, approve the resolution authorizing the drawdown of water compact funds. Second by Jimmy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Who's up next? Oh, lands
Louise,
purchase.
yeah.
Okay.
Louise Mitchell.
You know who's here.
All right, good morning, Louise.
Good morning, council. So I'm here to present a resolution for the purchase of Pablo Plum Creek Holdings LLC. It's the timbered property behind the Glacier Pablo Bank. And there's a resolution.
We have it in our packet.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the, when Juan was here, that was that highlighted red property, outside of the immediate footprint of the bank building.
Yeah.
Was that addressed in the land committee?
Yeah. Oh, before, yeah.
So there was funding identified for that parcel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're in the final stage of this one.
Yeah, this has been a learning process for me.
All right, I'll make the motion.
Motion by Len to approve the resolution authorizing the purchase of fee land located in Lake County. Second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good job.
you're at the finish line with this one. Okay, next up, we have Dan Decker, or part of this. Yep, okay. Yeah, we probably, for Mr. Valley Power Board, I think at this time we would appreciate, I know staff's here, but we think we appreciate just meeting with the board members themselves. And then as needed, we can call staff back in. Okay? Thank you.